Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jake and today I want to talk a little bit about Dredge, or more specifically the Iron Rig DLC which just came out yesterday. Now I haven't finished playing this DLC yet, I haven't completed it, I'm really taking my time with it and soaking it all in while I can, but I have played a good few hours and I think I'm ready to talk about it a little bit, kind of give my thoughts, I guess a review. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit, so let's just jump straight into this. Now the footage you are seeing is from the DLC, but I'm going to try my best to make sure I don't show any spoilers. I don't want to spoil the game for anyone who hasn't ever played Dredge before. I don't want to show any of the, well, I don't really know how to say it without spoiling anything, but I don't want to show off too much of the game for people who haven't played it, and I also of course don't want to show off too much of the DLC, so I'll try and be thoughtful with what gameplay I put in while I'm talking here. So Dredge the Iron Rig is the brand new DLC. It is about £10 on Steam and it is basically just more Dredge. Now that might sound a little bit negative, but let me tell you, it sure isn't. If you've played Dredge, you'll know exactly what I mean. This game was one of my game of the years when it came out. Absolutely fantastic. I loved every second of it. So having more of that is 100% up my alley. Now this DLC is kind of interesting because it doesn't actually take place on a new location or any new sort of settings or environments. Unlike the Pale Reach, which came out I think earlier last year, that took place on an entire isolated island down in the south. This actually just takes place on the core map where the base game is set. So you can actually play this DLC while you're also playing through the main game if you haven't played it before, which is pretty cool. But do not be alarmed if you've already played through the main game and you're playing on an end game save like myself, because it is still going to provide a decent amount of content for you and still be somewhat relatively challenging. The reason for that is because the developers were quite smart when they were coming up with the progression system for this DLC, and the way it basically works is you need all of this new equipment to interact with basically all of the new stuff in the DLC. A bit like the Pale Reach, you needed like the ice rod and everything to fish out ice fish. Well, you need specific rods for this DLC as well, and of course the way you get them is through purchasing them through items that again you're going to find later on through this DLC. So the progression the DLC has its own sort of progression system, which again I think is genuinely really smart. I love when DLCs do this. So again, if you have an end game save, do not worry, you do not have to restart. It'll of course make it a bit easier for you if you've already maxed out all of your upgrades and everything like myself, but it's still going to be a good experience and 100% playable. So what is the Iron Rig? Now again, I'm going to try and explain this with as little spoilers as possible, so I'm going to try my best here. Basically, this DLC adds an entire new point of interest to the map known as the Iron Rig, and as you might have already guessed, it is essentially an oil rig. So a company has basically moved down into this area and began drilling for oil, and it is your job to help them do that. You will provide them with the resources they need to run the drill, run the station, and this place will basically act as your hub throughout the entire DLC. So it works very similarly to the towns and everything, except this time you're a bit more involved in building them up. So you'll be going out into the world of Dredge and you will be finding special crates. These crates are crates that were supposed to be delivered to the oil rig but somehow went missing. Again, if you've played the game, you can probably take a good guess as to why. You're going to go get these crates as well as a bunch of other upgrade materials and bring them back to the rig so that you can help build it up. And every time you build it up, you'll be unlocking a bunch of new tools that you can then craft, which you can then add to your ship to help you, again, progress further through the DLC. So it functions basically similar to the base game, just with its own sort of unique mechanics. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be going back through the base game here, and you're going to be going to the locations that you've already been to before, except now there is oil everywhere, because this company that is apparently drilling for oil created some oil spills everywhere. So it is going to be up to you to go to those places and go and see what the hell is going on. You're going to be finding new kinds of fish, you're going to be cleaning up the oil, as well as of course upgrading your ship even further using the new progression. And that is about as much detail as I can go into without spoiling anything, but again, it is basically just more Dredge at the end of the day. So what are my thoughts on this DLC? Wow, I'm having a pretty good time with it so far. For £10, I think it's very much worth the price. It isn't that expensive, but of course in typical Dredge fashion, this isn't a very long DLC from what I've heard. Most people have been able to complete it within about 7 hours. I'm probably about 4 hours into it right now, so presumably about halfway through. But of course your playtime is going to vary from you as a person depending on A, whether you're playing in the end game, and B, just kind of how much you rush these sort of games. Now I'm looking at this DLC as a whole package because it doesn't just add content to the base game, but it also adds a bunch of achievements that you can decide to go after as well if you want to try and 100% it. And that personally is 100% how I recommend you play Dredge. If you just play the game as it's kind of supposed to be played, you go through the story, you do some of the quests, and then you finish it, you're probably not going to finish it with that long of a playtime. You'll still have a good time, I don't have no doubt, but you're probably not going to have much of a playtime. And if you're okay with that, then great, you know, more power to you. But for people who are looking for a bit more playtime, this is a game, one of the very few games I would absolutely recommend trying to 100% on, because I feel as though the game is kind of built around that a lot. When I finish the base game, and probably when I finish the story of the DLC as well, I doubt I'm going to have everything fully upgraded. I'm definitely not going to have caught every single fish, and there are achievements for that sort of thing, and that is something that I think you should definitely try to go after if you are playing Dredge for the base game, again, or this DLC. It just adds so much more content to it, and will add so much more value as well. And again, it is at the end of the day basically just a fishing game. It's really fun to be in this world, and that's one of the things I'm most excited about, I think, as well, is just actually coming back to this world, being able to explore it again. Yes, it is all of the same islands that we've seen before. There isn't really much new going on. There are some new quests and some new things going on, but it is still the same map at the end of the day. But I don't mind that too much. I'm quite happy to be returning here again, and just kind of picking up where I left off and carrying on this game again is a lot of joy. And I'm really going to try and 100% it this time. I came close last time, but I didn't quite get there. But I'm definitely going to be trying to 100% this DLC because, again, there is a ton of content in terms of like new fish types that you can catch, and again, the new upgrades as well. There is a lot of stuff here for you to go for. So my personal opinion on whether this DLC will be worth it to you is, again, very dependent on you as a player. That's, wow, shocker, I know. But the thing is, this DLC is just more Dredge. It is literally just that. And if you enjoyed the base game a lot and you want more of this game, you want to play more of it, you want to explore more of it, you want to catch new types of fish, you know, find a new story as well as some new side quests, and just have a good reason to jump back in for another, you know, 8 to 10 hours, then I 100% recommend picking up this DLC, no doubt. However, if you didn't particularly like the base game that much, or maybe you was hoping for something completely brand new here with this DLC, again, maybe you were hoping for like a new island or some new maps or something like that, then again, you're probably going to be a bit disappointed here because, again, it does take place in the exact same place as the base game. And it is also dependent on how much value you put on the cost of it, because again, for me, £10 is not a lot of money. I don't mind paying that for an 8 to 10 hour experience that adds content to one of my favorite games, but you might think differently. You might place more value on that than me and want more content than just some new quests and some new upgrades and such. You may want a whole new map and a whole new thing to explore, and if that's the case, then unfortunately the Iron Rig cannot offer that. But again, do not let this steer you away too much, because there is a whole new quest line here, bunch of new characters, a whole new point of interest. There is still a lot of stuff going on here, just not as much as some people might have expected. Now, if you are someone who has never played Dredge before, this is a little tricky because, of course, you don't know if you're going to like the game completely. Again, a lot of people who've played it do like it, but, you know, it isn't for everybody. So my official recommendation to you would be to pick up the base game while it's on sale now for 30% off. Give it a try, and if you get about halfway through the main game and you're having a good time, then go buy the Iron Rig DLC and start playing through it alongside that as well. Because I think, because this DLC was definitely designed to be played in a way that you can play it while you're playing through the base game. Again, you can play an endgame with no issues at all. It works very well with endgame, but it can also work very well as well if you're just playing through the base game for the first time. So So I definitely recommend picking it up if you get about halfway through and you're really enjoying the experience and want to add more onto that. Otherwise, you could just finish the base game, and then if you still want more Dredge, you could also go and pick it up there as well. So that is my official recommendation on Dredge. This was a little messy. My thoughts were a bit all over the place. I haven't made one of these videos in quite a while, so I'm kind of trying to get back into the swing of things. But yeah, I'm having a very good time. I'm enjoying it a lot. I definitely do recommend it, especially if you're a fan of the base game and just want more of that content. You want a new story, a bunch of new upgrades, a bunch of new tasks to do, and a bunch of new weird stuff to see. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found it somewhat helpful. If you did, be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Jake, and I will see you next time.